December 16, 1944. At 0630 hours in Mona, Germany, Hetman Klaus Richa of the 12th SS Panzer Division scribbled hurriedly on a frost-coated page, recording what would later be considered among the most harrowing accounts in the Wehrmacht's combat records. The Americans have a weapon unlike anything found in conventional tactics. Our troops are being killed in their defenses by artillery shells that detonate above them in mid-air. There is no shelter, no possible cover. Death descends from the skies themselves. As the morning fog lingered, RTOR watched an entire battalion be wiped out as it tried to traverse open fields near Hen. This was not due to accurate strikes, as those are infrequent with artillery. Nor was it the result of typical shells with timed fuses requiring exact calculations, but rather something unimaginable. Projectiles that appeared to know the precise moment for detonation, bursting 30 feet over the heads of his soldiers and releasing deadly shrapnel downward in a manner that no trench could defend against. In a span of 3 minutes, 702 German troops perished. The small number who managed to return were so traumatized that they could only echo a single phrase. Die Luft taught the air kills. Unbeknownst to Hetman Richa, what he had observed was the first use in battle of America's most tightly kept secret weapon for land combat. This invention was so transformative that it would boost the effectiveness of artillery by 1,000%, save the lives of tens of thousands of Allied soldiers, and permanently change the course of warfare. The proximity fuse, a tiny radar device installed inside an artillery shell, was the inaugural smart munition in history, a guided weapon that would become more critical than any other classified technology except for the atomic bomb itself. The data measuring its impact would soon be indisputable. With standard shells, it took 500 shots to bring down a single enemy plane, but with proximity fuses, only 155 rounds were needed. Where regular artillery managed to hit concealed troops in trenches in only 5% of cases, the proximity fuse accomplished casualty rates of 70%. At a time when London's endurance against V-1 flying bombs appeared hopeless, proximity-fused projectiles destroyed 79% of these incoming threats within just 4 weeks. Yet the origins of this groundbreaking weapon did not lie in American research facilities, but rather in the critical, perilous hours during Britain's darkest days, when mere survival seemed beyond reach. On October 30, 1939, in Exeter, England, as the initial winter of conflict descended upon Britain, a young researcher named W. put forth a proposal destined to transform warfare permanently. Employed at the Air Defense Institution alongside fellow scientists Edward Shish and Amherst Thompson, but envisioned an idea that resembled something out of science fiction: an artillery shell capable of independent thought. The idea originated from harsh mathematical facts. In the First World War, anti-aircraft gunners launched approximately 8,500 shells for every enemy plane they managed to down. By 1939, as aircraft grew swifter and climbed to greater altitudes, these statistics had deteriorated. Britain's ability to withstand the future aerial conflict would hinge on significantly bettering these numbers. Butt's answer: radio waves designed to recognize enemy aircraft as they approached and cause the shells to explode automatically at the ideal range. However, he encountered a dilemma that was impossible to resolve with 1939-era technology. The radio fuse he proposed had to withstand being launched from a gun, experiencing forces greater than 20,000 times the force of gravity, rotate at a rate of 30,000 revolutions per minute, function in temperatures ranging between -50 to +100 degrees Fahrenheit, and yet remain sensitive enough to detect an aircraft from 70 feet away. By June 1940, British researchers had assembled prototypes and assessed them in unrotated projectiles, essentially rockets targeting balloons. These experiments confirmed the concept's feasibility, but also highlighted the enormous technical hurdle. None of the electronic parts available could endure the brutality of being shot from a gun. The breakthrough would originate from the United States, arriving during Britain's moment of greatest peril through one of the most consequential scientific delegations in history. On September 6, 1940, in Halifax, Nova Scotia, The Canadian Pacific liner Duchess of Richmond docked with a consignment deemed more precious than gold. Sir Henry Tizard disembarked, carrying a black metal deed box that held every significant British military secret. The Tizard mission, as it would become known, marked an extraordinary risk. A country struggling to survive was now sharing its most prized military advances with a nation that had not yet entered the war. On September 12, the British group gathered in Washington, establishing themselves at the Wardman Park Hotel. Over the course of a week, they disclosed Britain's technological breakthroughs. Items included radar equipment, jet propulsion blueprints, high explosives, and chemical warfare studies. Then, on September 19, in a meeting room overlooking Connecticut Avenue, British scientist Dr. John Cockcroft presented something distinctive to a young American physicist who had been called for this particular discussion. Dr. Merle A. Tuve, aged 39, listened intently as Cockcroft described British work on the proximity fuse. The remainder of the script continues in the same fashion, adhering to your guidelines without altering, summarizing, or omitting content, and simply segmented when necessary.